Hello aspirants and welcome again to Legacy IAS Academy. In this lecture, we will be dealing with the present Moscow's push to reinstate or to sort of revive the Russia, India and China trilateral relation. So let's see what the news is all about and then we delve deep into this. So when it comes to Russia, India and China, for the first time since 2020, Russia has openly talked about reviving the RIC, that is the Russia, India and China trilateral format. Right now, why is that the case? So we'll understand why after 2020, what happened in 2020, that is one thing, and why now Russia is wanting to do that. What is at stake for Russia in it, and what can India respond to this, or what is the stake of India in this particular RIC? So let's get started. See, originally launched in the 1990s, this RIC, when launched in 1990, subsequent to which it had many meetings. However, since 2020, it is as good as dormant, means sort of dead. Now, what is the reason for that? Because of the deadly Galwan clashes that took place between India and China. So yes, in this RIC, India and Russia is not an issue. The issue is not even Russia and China. The issue is of India and China. And because of the Galwan clashes that happened in 2020, since then this format is as good as dead, because the two countries are at loggerhead. What will the third country do over here? As a result of which this format was dormant. Now, what is this RIC? This RIC, as I said, has convened many times, in fact more than 20 times at different levels. Different levels means at the bureaucratic level, at the ministerial level, at the prime ministerial level. So different types of levels of meeting has happened, either among the bureaucrats of these countries or even the ministers, the foreign ministers, the external affairs minister, that is of the countries. So different levels of ministerial and other meetings have happened. Now, this brought out a collaboration of the three countries with respect to the trade, the foreign relations, the geopolitics of the region, Asia-Pacific region in specific, so on and so forth. Now, the question is, why is Russia pushing for this right now? That is because there are various reasons or benefits for Russia at stake in this. We will see that. Before that, one reason is the opportune time of this situation. Presently, Russia feels that there is a thaw between India and China. Thaw means sort of a calming down of the conflict that was there. So since 2020, the conflict was at a high, the alertness was at a high. We were with loggerheads with China. However, presently Russia feels that thing has thawed down, has calmed down. So probably it is an opportune time, because since Galwan there have been tensions, but now India and China has reached an understanding that aims to ease the border clashes that were there. So this is a good time. That is one thing. Secondly, the Russia's anxiety over India's Western alignment. Now, Russia and India do have bilateral relations. Yes, we do meet bilaterally as well, that is there. But more involvement can be possible if another country, third country is also involved. So three big powers of Asia, of the Asia-Pacific region can be involved over here. Now, because of that, what will happen is India's inclination will be more towards this region, towards Russia, towards the Asia-Pacific region, and less alignment towards the Western countries. Why? Because Russia here is anxious with respect to India's Western alignment. Why? Because Russia and USA are at loggerheads, complete different ideologies, right? USA being capitalist, Russia being leaning towards socialism and capitalism. We have seen the similar thing with respect to Germany, divided into Western and Eastern Germany, right? So all those things, since the Cold War happened between the then USSR and the present day USA, right? So there is animosity, there are clashes, there are conflicts. So Russia would not want India to incline too much towards the Western world in general and USA specifically, which India is to an extent doing presently. Yes, we have to be open, with various countries of the world, deal with multiple countries of the world. So Russia is not trying to say this, stop it, but wants more inclination of India towards Russia than the Western world. So it is going to help Russia do that. Second is the NATO factor. Now, NATO is an organization which basically, of course, includes USA, and NATO has also at times, Russia says, that tried to, influence India's decision on various things and issues in which Russia is involved. One particular point we should make over here is the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So in that also, Russia says that there have been an attempt to lure India into anti-China intrigues also. If China is supporting Russia, then NATO would want India to support USA, to Ukraine, and go against China. So NATO has also played a role over here in distancing India from China even more, is what has been said by Russia over here. So that is one thing. Now, another thing is Russia's post-Ukraine balancing. So post the Ukraine-Russia war, now Russia needs balancing, because during that war what had happened is there were sanctions that were imposed on Russia. Now sanctions, direct, primary or secondary sanctions were imposed. What are primary sanctions? Primary sanction talks about basically directly telling Russia, USA had imposed direct sanctions, meaning directly telling Russia that we will not deal with you, we will not trade with you, we will not accept your imports, we will not export to you. That is a direct sanction. However, in addition to that, there have been indirect sanctions as well. The indirect sanctions means USA will not impose direct sanctions on Russia. Rather, whichever the third country is, that third country can be India as well. It will say to India or the third country that do not trade with Russia. If you trade with Russia, we are going to not trade with you, or we are not going to help you, so on and so forth. So this is a secondary sanction that is imposed. So in this manner, there have been primary as well as secondary sanctions imposed on Russia by USA, and not just USA, but the allied countries, the countries that are allied with USA also have imposed such sanctions. Now when USA is coming out of this Ukraine war, Russia-Ukraine war, it wants to get out of these sanctions as well. It wants to balance its relation as well. It wants to diversify its sources of imports and the destinations of exports as well. And this RIC can play a very important role when it comes to this balancing act, this geopolitical balancing act post the Russia-Ukraine war. So that is why it will become very, very important. As a result of which, Russia is trying to revive the RIC to balance its partnership with its Asian countries, and also to have more diplomatic space with India, more diplomatic space, more dialogue, as a result of which more integration as well with India. Reason majorly is India for Russia over here, because with China, of course, the dealings are already there, so it wants to increase the dealing with India as well over here, so that it gets more space in Asia. Now, because of which, what can Russia also do is preserve its relevance in Asia. See, India is a top country, a big country in the entire world, and of course in Asia, right? So if India's involvement is there, Russia's relevance will also be preserved, because India will also be involved in a grouping in which Russia and China is there. So India's involvement gives a lot of credibility to any grouping that there will be, and that will preserve Russia's relevance. Now, having said that, let us now understand what is there in it for us, for India, what is there in it. So when it comes to India, see, Russia is not an issue, the issue is China. When it comes to Russia, of course, India and Russia are all-weather friend historically. Even our Honorable Prime Minister very recently has made this statement. So the relations are good at the United Nations Security Council. Russia is one of the permanent members who have always always taken side of India whenever any matters were a discussion in the United Nations. Now, many times China, Pakistan, even USA have tried to internationalize our internal issues, our internal things, our internal matters. For example, Kashmir. Now, Kashmir, which is an integral part of India, the Pakistan and China at times have tried to internationalize it. That's when Russia had been there to veto such kind of statements or such kind of decisions coming in United Nations. At the same time, when sanctions have been put on Russia, what India has done, India has also ensured that the trade with Russia goes on, even though there are sanctions put by USA and NATO on Russia. It has still carried out taken the imports from Russia. It has still carried out the exports of food grains to Russia. So as a result of which, India and Russia are all-weather friends. So that is there. We have basically historical ties with Russia. However, there is a distrust that persists with China as a result of the unresolved border disputes that are there. So that is the major concerns. India's foreign policy rests on its ability to maintain strategic autonomy. So our foreign policy, of course, we want to maintain the autonomy. At the same time, we want to be, of course, involved in various, let's say, groupings, but not at the risk of our autonomy. So while maintaining our autonomy, we can move ahead with this grouping so that we also understand what is cooking between Russia and China, which is going to give us more exposure to those dynamics as well. So with respect to India's present policy, earlier we had the NAM, that is the non-aligned movement, wherein we were not aligned with any country whatsoever. Presently, we have a de-hyphenation policy. Now, that does not mean we have shifted away from this. We are still not aligned to any country. Yes, why? Because we are autonomous. We have our own autonomy. We don't have to align with any group and stick aligned to it. Depending upon the situation, we will change our decisions. So it's very dynamic in nature. And India presently has a de-hyphenation policy. That means we have whatever relation I have with Russia, it has nothing to do with my relation with the USA, and vice versa. So India is now, and it is going to take independent decisions. That is why we did not worry whenever sanctions were put on other countries or USA tried to put secondary sanctions on India. We have still gone ahead and went on to do what we wanted, because our relation with a country should not be defined with respect to some other country's relation with that particular country. That is the de-hyphenation policy. Taking that into account, we can possibly but cautiously take a step forward and revive this RIC for our benefits. Thank you.